This is All Grit.
Hosted by Animation Tanya.
Today on the episode, we are in conversation with Surbhi Bhatia, who is an alum of IIM-Kozhikode. While she came into the MBA with experience in journalism, media, and real estate, after her MBA, she went on to be in strategy consulting at Deloitte. Thereafter, she moved on to a corporate strategy role in Aditya Birla, and currently she is an entrepreneur, successfully running her own venture, The Mom Store. She talks about the thrills of strategy consulting, the satisfaction of running your own company, and the critical issues in Indian businesses while taking us through the evolution of digital ventures in India.
Hi Surbhi, welcome to the podcast. Very excited to have you here and can't wait to begin the conversation.
Yeah, same here. Very happy to be part of this. And being associated back to campus is always great.
Thank you for giving us your time, Surbhi. We are looking forward to the whole conversation.
Yeah, same here.
We want to start from the beginning. You did your undergrad in mathematics from St. Stephen's in Delhi. So what were your career aspirations back then when you were at that beautiful campus?
Yeah. So, back then in 2009, I was a 20-year-old, and like any other 20-year-old, I was confused about what I wanted to do. I was doing mathematics from St. Stephen's because I always wanted to go to Delhi University, especially Stephen's, because there were many family members who had graduated from there and, told me these wonderful stories. But while at campus, there were a lot of options available. I could have done academy. A lot of my batchmates were doing that. There was an option to pursue MBA or, just work for a while. And I was confused about my options. So I decided that, I will take some time off. I will work for a while, figure out what is it that I really want. Do I want to go back to academics or pursue, say, a management or a business degree? And so that's when I decided that I would be working. Alongside my graduation, I was also doing a startup alongside my coursework. It was called the Viewspaper. It was an online paper for the youth, which was my first insight into the startup world. We were engaging with a lot of youth across the Delhi University campus and across India to, write stories for our publication, which was an online publication, a first of its kind, to publish the stories which are close to the heart of the youth. It could be, related from business to politics and so on. And that's when I figured that I really enjoy working and, building something and making an impact. And so I decided to just, give it a go and continue to work for about 2 to 3 years till I figured out what I wanted next.
So, as you said, the Viewspaper was your first foray into the startup world, right? And currently you are doing your own startup with the Mom Store. What were the experiences and what were the learnings which you could pass them over from Viewspaper to the Mom Store?
Actually, many. And of course, you don't realize it when you're doing something. It's always a sort of a hindsight analysis, which you do, maybe many years later down the line. But when I was part of the newspaper, I was doing some very interesting things, which were very business oriented, which I didn't realize at that time. One was, we were mobilizing a lot of youth to write for us. So, it was a lot of cold calling and, or having conversations on why this is a good thing, and that sort of resulted in sort of a sales for that organization. So that was my first sort of sales study. Second, the newspaper was built on a platform called WordPress, and in a startup you have to multitask. So I used to write articles, I used to edit them, I used to publish them, I used to get more writers. When I was working on the WordPress, I actually figured how a website is built, and what are the plug and play tools available that can bring things together, and how we can work on the customer journey and the interface to make it to say increase the number of page views. It was my initial knowledge into search engine optimization, and we did a lot of things to do that. Facebook had just entered India around 2007-8. Very few accounts were there, but I was running digital marketing campaigns on Facebook for the newspaper. And this is all back then in 2007. Something I realized that it's just something that I'm doing alongside college to keep myself busy. But all of those learnings came into play when I started my own company. I knew that platforms existed where you could, create a plug and play website on your own. And, it doesn't require you to spend lakhs of rupees to make it from scratch. I knew how to run Facebook and digital ads. I also knew a lot about SEO, and it all came back together when I started my own company. So it was an interesting experience that, whatever we learn, and it's just sort of a deja vu that, whatever we learn at that point of time gets converted into something useful many years later, and you'd never know how it will actually be useful. And it's not just the Viewspaper. I actually worked in another company called Feedback Ventures straight out of college. That was my first campus job because Newspaper was a voluntary effort. It was something that I was just doing more like a hobby. And my first proper corporate job was with Feedback Ventures, which was taking me around the country, to tier two, tier three cities to interview architects, developers, and EDS consultants to figure out more about government-led projects and private-led projects in those cities, so that our clients could invest in the real estate market there. That also taught me a lot of skills. Again, setting up interviews with these people, doing research, analysis, all of these marketing research skills that I learned were again applied. And one more thing is that, it's not just what you learn, but also who you meet. My immediate boss in Feedback Ventures was Raghu Nandan ji, who was the founder of Taxi for Sure, which got sold to Ola.
Hola.
And my super boss was Monica Sood, who now runs her own healthcare consultancy called Arit Advisors. And they are both entrepreneurs, and we're still connected through the network. And I have learned so much from them as well. And so, life is a series of experiences where you never know what will come back to you at a later stage. And I mean, it's been great because I have learned so much.
That's very interesting. And we keep hearing time and time again that any work you do will come to use at some point of your life. It's just about
Yeah.
when do those dots connect. So I think your example is kind of perfect in that. So after that quick sneak peek into your pre-MBA career, now we would like to jump straight into something that would perhaps be the most interesting piece of your journey to our listeners, which is your journey after your MBA. So
Right.
tell us a little bit about your thought process behind choosing strategy consulting as a profession after MBA, because I think I speak for most of the people who are doing MBA with me when I say that we are often wowed by the world of consulting and the opportunity it brings of gaining cross industry know-how. So what were the drivers that helped you make that decision of going into strategy consulting?
See, by the time I came to campus, I was very sure that I wanted to do consulting. I was there. I was wowed by the world of consulting. I wanted a flying lifestyle. I wanted to live out of my suitcase. I wanted to travel a lot. I wanted to earn big. I wanted all these fancy hotel miles and the stories that you hear about big shot consultants. And so I had worked very hard till then, and I had done like the most possible groundwork for a startup, didn't earn big bucks. Let me do something flamboyant now. And so that was my driver, and for applying for a consulting job. uh, when I joined Deloitte, it was a great experience. My first project was in Seattle. I think for 6 months, every weekend I was traveling somewhere in the US, and it was a great experience. Again, I think in the period of 3 years, I did about 6 or 7 global projects and 2 or 3 Indian projects, and I did. It was also an amazing experience. There was a very long time within Deloitte I felt that I will retire from this company, but things change. When there was a sort of fire inside me that I'm doing stuff, but it's not making an impact. I was an individual contributor, and in a consulting environment, you really don't have, reportees as such. Like even at a partner level, you just work with teams, and every time you do a different project, there's a different team, and there's a different manager. So they're never direct reportees. You cannot sort of say mentor people, or guide them, or drive teams, or drive projects. You're doing projects with a client which you will make very fancy decks for and give it to them, but how practical they are and what is their level of implementation always remains to be seen. So you never really work at the ground level. You're always at, say, a 10,000 feet level. It was, the more you do these things, the more frivolous it becomes. So it had become sort of frivolous for me. And again, I was in an environment where if I had to grow in the company, I either had to keep on traveling like this all my life, or move to the States, because I was part of Deloitte USI. And I think USI comes to campus. So you guys might be aware that that's how it works. You either work there, or you keep on traveling. And that's also something that I had begun to get tired of, living out of the suitcase, always being in a hotel. It impacts your health in a certain way. And I guess I had grown up. So I wanted a change. And that's when I decided to move back to India and work with an Indian firm this time.
When you move from Deloitte to Aditya Birla Group in corporate strategy, that is like it was a very comfortable job, and I mean, it's of course there is grind, but in a sense that you don't have to travel so much. You know where you're going to settle and everything like that. So you know what work is going to come to you, right? What
Right.
made you think of pivoting to entrepreneurship, which is the most uncomfortable thing somebody can do?
Yeah. So again, see, in Aditya Birla Fashion and Retail, you rightly said it was a very comfortable job. It was, a 1 kilometer from my home. I mean, I used to joke around with my office colleagues that, I can't even listen to a full song in my car while I reach to office. It's so close. I guess I don't like comfort zones. But what happened there was that while I did some interesting projects, one must realize that in a company which is as big as Aditya Birla Fashion and Retail with thousands of employees, a corporate strategy team also has very minimal effect. First of all, bigger the organization, slower the things move. And change management and transformation, especially in Indian businesses, is people hesitate a lot to accept that. Also, I was relatively young, and seniority is more revered in certain organizations like that. So suggesting to, say, business heads and CXOs on how they should do their business will not really come well from, say, a 28, 29-year-old. And so there was resistance, but overall the work quality was good. But obviously that that fire in my belly, which I had to make an impact, I was still at a very high level. So maybe from 10,000 feet I'd fallen to 5,000 feet, but I was still above the ground. And I just felt that, things take a lot of time to change. And by that time, during this period, I'd also become a mom, and I had started getting more ideas about uh, the journey of motherhood. uh, During my pregnancy, while I did not face any challenges as such, I just felt that, comfortable maternity wear is absent. When I had my baby, I also figured that, it's not just the maternity period, but there are other things, requirements at different baby milestones which are not available when the baby is small, or that a brand which a mother can trust is not available. Most importantly, as a new age mom who was well read, who had planned her pregnancy, who knew exactly what she wanted to do, there was no brand or organization who was treating me as a consumer. I was alone in the market. Nobody was addressing me as a consumer at all. They were either addressing the kid or the family. And I was the key decision maker. My husband hardly paid attention to what I wanted to buy and everything, and it was all me. So I felt that there's a huge potential that we are missing. And um, and in all the last 10 years, while I have done different things, this I have been an entrepreneur on the edge. I have always wanted to do something of my own. I guess becoming a mother gave me all that courage, and I decided that, and that also I was very, very cautious about it. I decided, okay, let me try something. Let's figure out what we can do. I'll not quit my job yet. I'll just make a plan and start a pilot. And if all works out, then we will see what happens. So that's how it all started.
Just to put in, if time was not a constraint, like you said, like rightly said, that Indian companies, time is a constraint. Things take time to happen. So, if time
Yes.
was not a constraint, would you, how different things would have been, or how different your vision would have like realized if you would have done it in ABG itself instead of going out and starting your own company, started a new business line in ABG itself.
See, again, I would say that time is not the only constraint. There are a lot of other things. First of all, see your seniority in a certain organization, the experience that you come with. So I had all these ideas, but I never had an experience to execute it. And in any organization, experience is valued. Okay, you've done something before, you've led a company, you've made $1 million for a e-commerce startup. Okay, be my person and drive it. But nobody would be willing to give you a responsibility if you've never done it before, even if you want to. Things move slow. There are several levels of decision making. There are too many people making the decisions. Things are just slow. And I wanted complete responsibility of what I was doing. I wanted to drive my own PNL. I wanted to build it from scratch. I had so many ideas which I knew that if I'm in a bigger organization with, say, an umbrella over me, I will not be able to go as fast as I want and be aggressive. And as a person, or as, like, I would say a resource myself, I would say that I'm pretty aggressive with what I want, and I try to get it quickly, but that was really not possible there. And I think I would not have it any other way, because the joy that you get for building something from scratch that you can call your own, and see the results and be the sole person responsible for it, or of course along with your team, I think that's greater than anything. It gives you this enormous sense of self-respect and pride that can't come if you're doing the same thing for another company.
That's incredible. So, your company, Mom Store, is all digital. And with e commerce being supremely competitive right now, and it's ruled by a lot of, giants, for example, Amazon, among others. So, how do you go about creating a space for yourself while making sure that your company stays profitable? Did you face any particular challenges while traversing through a heavily crowded and discount driven online retailing model?
Yeah, so the major challenge with e-commerce today is, the way the industry has evolved in India. One is deep discounting. One is, hesitation to accept digital payments, high reliance on, cash on delivery orders, because all of this creates operational inefficiencies. So first of all, to the idea was to create a trust in the market. Yes. See, we got lucky in one place that we were entering a category where, while the whole e-commerce space is cluttered, the category that we entered was not very cluttered. And so we could emerge and run faster with it. The second thing is that while you have a lot of clutter on marketplaces like Amazon and Flipkart, and even say Myntra and other marketplaces, you don't have any recognized brands. So unless and until you are going to these websites and searching for a certain brand, all you find is like a hodgepodge of sellers having there, and you will find some good products and you will find products that you will keep on returning. So it's a lot of hit and trial for a lot of consumers. And I think what has happened along the way for a lot of consumers is they want to see brands that they can trust. They are also tired of just buying stuff and returning it. They want to go to places where they know that they will get good quality products, and that will be like a final sale. So they might spend 100, 200 rupees extra for a product, but with the assurance that the product will be good. So that was the first idea. Secondly, In an e-commerce atmosphere, if you have your own brand, there are certain advantages. All of these places, Amazon and Flipkart and so on, all marketplaces become sales channels for you. So while we run our own website, we also sell at all of these marketplaces and they become our sales channels. So it's not competition, but an enabler. So it's how you view the market, right? And I think overall it's worked in our favor, because we have been sort of pioneers for the maternity market as such, and also the infant care market as a brand.
Right. And another thing that I was wondering is that since you wanted through your brand, you wanted to give new mothers an immersive experience, right, as a lifestyle brand, through various stages of their motherhood journey. So, what would you say is the sweet spot for a brand like yours when it comes to an e-commerce and a brick and mortar mix?
Yeah. So when I started, I was pretty clear that, I will do it for a few years, raise some funds, and also go through the brick and mortar way. And I wanted to create this IKEA and Decathlon kind of store where, the entire experience of motherhood, right from an aisle of pregnancy to a newborn to a 3 month old till about 4 years, different stages. However, given the whole pandemic situation and how quickly things have changed, we have decided that at least for the foreseeable future, we will continue to remain online. There are several reasons for this, okay, not just the pandemic, but the category that we adhere to, which is expecting mothers and new mothers and small children. All of these people are highly cautious. They are highly cautious about your safety. They are highly cautious about the quality of products they use, and they're highly cautious as a consumer. And so this particular category of consumer is probably the last that will, start getting out and getting back to the so-called normal, which will be, say, in the next few years. And so it doesn't make sense. Digital itself as a medium has seen a huge rise in terms of sales and revenue because of the whole pandemic situation. People have started trusting online websites a lot more. The equilibrium is a lot better because people are like, okay, let me try. If it doesn't work out, I will return, and if it works out, I will keep it. People have become more confident with digital payments. We've seen a switch where people, our 40% orders used to be prepaid, and post pandemic, around in the last couple of months, we've reached around 65 to 70% of prepaid orders. And people, and it's also because, people don't want to exchange cash anymore because of a risk of infection. And the whole idea through which they viewed e-commerce, that okay, we will buy good stuff from the store, but we'll buy discounted products from an e-commerce channel. That whole mindset itself has changed. They're like, okay, let me buy everything at the comfort of my home, and the only thing I will do is, probably go out for a drive or, visit my relatives and so on. So the whole idea and consumer experience has changed. And so I feel that digital is the way forward. Most of the companies who are in retail right now and have suffered losses because of an extended lockdown are also moving towards a digital environment and, starting their own e-commerce brands and channels and so on. So yeah, it's all digital for the next few years.
Talking about digital, you have been associated with digital since 2007 and Viewspaper, right? So what
Yeah.
are the changes and what transition did you see in the last 13 years? Because in 2007, for example, the most popular phones were Blackberries and Nokias, which are not
Correct.
really out there
No,
in the market
actually, in
anymore.
2007, we all of us, almost all my classmates had flip phones. So the
Yes, Moto
Motorola
Razors.
things were the most popular, and I had a Nokia flip phone. And so you used to flip the phone and take the call. So that was the fashion at that time. I mean, I feel so old saying it, but it's just been 10 years. So there have been a lot of changes. First of all, back then in 2007, we did not have camera phones. We did not have WhatsApp. We did not have mobile internet to view websites. Facebook, like I said, was had just made an entry into India. Most of the people were on Orkut and High Five, which are non-existent now. Flipkart had just started when I was in college. It was a website that sold books. I remember I bought, when Flipkart had launched, I had made my first digital transaction and bought a book from Flipkart. Amazon was non-existent in India. It was, I think, jungly.com, and nobody used to buy from it. It went a complete overhaul in the next 5 to 6 years. Things were very different. It was not at all a digitally conducive ecosystem at that time. In the 6 years, all the digital interfaces that we see today, whether it's Facebook, social media, camera phones, selfie phones, I had not taken a selfie until 2015 when I got my first selfie phone camera. And so all because see what happens is when you have one is digital enablers. So I would say that mobile phones is a digital enabler which allowed you to do all of these things, access internet on your phone, click pictures, and have sharing softwares like WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram. And so there was a digital explosion there because people started sharing a lot, right? And then mobile internet brought with itself a lot of options for say e-commerce shopping and information, and lots of InShots and articles being shared around. And finally, mobile apps. So everybody started developing their own apps to so that they always sit on your phone and keep reminding you that whenever you need you can buy something. Circa today, 2020, where every single thing from grocery to toilet paper to you know fashion apparel to a fridge to a TV, everything is being purchased online. So things have changed dramatically. It's nothing short of dramatic. They have changed dramatically in the last 10 years. And I think this is how the world is going to evolve, and digital is here to stay. So even when somebody has a retail and is a retail first organization or a brand, they will need to have a digital channel in order to survive.
Right. And I think your generation and our generation has been at the cusp of this change. And I mean, Gen Z is not going to see any of that now. So, if you had to do your business all over again, what would you do differently?
I would do nothing differently because it's a journey. Like if I do anything differently, there will be so many things I would probably not learn, and it's the journey that I have taken to reach here today is has been full of all the learnings which have enabled me to achieve what I have done so far. I mean, I can go back and say, okay, what have I not done? Newspaper and studied, and I could have done my PhD in mathematics. But that I'm probably not cut out for it, right? And so I don't regret anything that I should or should not have done. I think whatever I have done so far has helped me in some way or the other, or will continue to help me. And it's my journey which has taught me. And it's been the greatest learning experience uh, the last 10 years of whatever has happened and what I liked or I didn't like. And so I would say that, for any MBA grad or as an individual who's just at the cusp of starting out your careers, you should embrace any kind of work, anything that comes your way, because you don't know how it will help you in future. And even management education, and I had taken another session with Professor Joffrey. I told him that even though I did not have marketing as a major in my subject, and I just feel that I should have paid more attention in all those classes, because I had to go back and read my Kotlers to figure out different consumer behavior theories, marketing strategies, and so on when I was building my own business. I would say that, as a young company, as a startup, I have also hired a lot of freshers, of course, not from an IIM, but people fresh out of college. And I think those people who work the best and have the highest and the steepest learning curve are those who are willing to learn and willing to try out different things. The brand of your company, your pay package, all of it doesn't matter in the long run. You can always change your fortune by the virtue of work that you do. But at that point of time, if you are in a certain situation, always make the best out of it.
Now you have had such a great journey. You went to Deloitte. You started with Viewspaper, actually, Viewspaper and Feedback Infra. Then you came
Yeah.
to IIM-K. You went to Deloitte, and after Deloitte, you went to ABG. After ABG, you are an entrepreneur now with the Mom Store. What more advice would you give to people who are currently in a corporate job but want to take that leap of faith and start entrepreneurship?
Yeah. So, there are a lot of people, and including myself 5 years ago, and I call them entrepreneurs on the edge, who always dream about having a startup and, doing something of their own, but are not yet ready to take the leap because it comes with so many risks. There's a financial risk, which is the biggest risk. Will I be able to survive if I quit my job and I don't have a, say, a paycheck for the next 2 years while I'm building my company? So first thing is get your finance, and this is all practical advice. Okay, you want to do something, just do it. That's the philosophical advice. Let me give practical advice first. Make sure that you have your finances in order. So either you have enough savings to sail you through the next 2 to 3 years where you're still in the experimentation stage. Have a business model which will either start generating revenues, projected revenues soon, or have another way of, say, doing a freelance work alongside your entrepreneurship. Well, I never had to do it, but that was my backup plan, that I would be freelancing in some way or the other, like, say, making those pitch decks for VCs. But uh, have a plan ready. Secondly, have your support system. So see, if you are an individual and you're doing this, it's a bit easier because you don't have a family to, who are dependent on you. But if you already have a family, say a wife or kid, and your spouse is working or not working, figure out that situation. Third, figure out all your options. So if you want to raise money, but that's not working out, because seed funding usually comes with a prototype. And if there is no running prototype, people may not be willing to just invest in an idea. There are possibilities of money through, say, a bank loan, or, enrolling yourself in startup competitions. Again, it takes a lot of grit and determination because you should be prepared that as an entrepreneur, you might succeed and you might fail. So you should always be ready for both the scenarios. And you might also have to change your plan along the way. So when I started out, I never thought that I will be building my own website first. I'd always felt that, I will take the easy route, become a seller on Amazon, Flipkart, and so on. When the money starts coming in and my products start selling, I might become the number one seller there. From that money, I might, start my own website. But I had to change that thought and vision pretty quickly as soon as 1 month into the business, because I realized that it's not easy to make a dent on such huge marketplaces. Won't give you any attention unless and until you bring a certain, say, dollar in terms of revenue. So you don't know who your consumer is. You are just catering to a sea of audience. And while you don't have a voice as a brand, and I really wanted that because my motive of starting the Mom Store was to help the new age woman navigate through her motherhood journey, both through the right products and the information through our blogging platform. And so I started my own brand. So there has to be a lot of flexibility in your plan to pivot and shift when it is required. But it's definitely possible and very, very rewarding.
I'm sure. But one of the things, we had an entrepreneur on the show earlier as well, and one of the things that he said that was, it appears very glorious because you own your company. But then there's a lot of hard work that goes into it as well. And you have to be ready for it, right? For the first couple of years, maybe you'll have to do everything, every process you have to do, perhaps by your own hands, from like delivering stuff, packing things yourself and sending it out, etc.
So
So, yeah.
completely true. And that's something that, I've also done. I mean, there is nothing in the organization that I would not have done, even from like, cleaning the office. So it requires an amazing amount of hard work. You cannot have a situation where you think that you are the boss and other people will do it for you. They will only do it when you are doing it with them. You have to lead the way through it. In the pandemic situation, when my entire staff had gone and was working from home, and the dispatch staff had gone back to their villages, the e-commerce for non-essentials had opened up, but the transport had not opened, so there was no way that they could have come back. I used to come to office at 9 a.m. with like my lunchbox and everything, and pack every single order on my own, sitting in an empty office. And like, there were times when there was no electricity also, but my priority was that these orders need to get out, because this was our earned revenue for the lockdown months. And if I did not get this revenue, I will not be able to pay my employees. In a period of 2 weeks, I would have packed 2,000 orders single-handedly by myself. And it's, I mean, there was an easy way out. I could have just said like, okay, when my staff will come back, I will do it. But I would have lost all of those orders as cancelled, and it would have been a lost revenue. It needs a lot of inner strength. I think I always tell my husband that entrepreneurship is a soul sucking job. I feel that, a part of my soul has gone into it. But that's completely true. You have to be ready to do every single thing.
Yeah, and I think that's the perfect segue into our next question, which is that what is the hardest decision that you've ever had to make?
I would say the hardest decision I've had to make is, well, this only, whether I would be successful as an entrepreneur or not. The fact I was leaving my job. In fact, given the trajectory that you guys have heard by now, I was fairly successful in whatever I was doing. I was on top of my job. I was earning well. I was getting great reviews from my boss. There were no red signals. Like, but while I had decided to move on, a lot of people, especially my parents and in-laws, were like, "Why do you want to do this? You have a small kid. Your entire life will change, and you have such a comfortable job, and that's what you should have as a young mother. When you are a mother to a 1-year-old, you need a lot of time to spend with a child as well, because they're dependent for the first 4 or 5 years, and this will mean an entire shift in your personal and professional life. So it was a hard decision for me, but I think one thing that changed it for me is I thought about, what would I want my daughter to do if she was at my place? And I would always say, okay, go ahead and do what you want. And so I thought that if that's the advice I will give my daughter, then that's what I should do, because she will also look up to me saying that, yes, my mom did it when I was young and it was all okay. So yeah. Entrepreneurship, I think, is the hardest decision anyone ever has to make, because it takes away the cushion from your life. It throws you out of the comfort zone into the wild world to navigate it yourself. It's like rebirth. So yeah, that's been the hardest thing, obviously.
There have been so many points in this conversation where I thought, I wish everybody knew this, because when we look at your life, when we look at your profile without talking to you, it looks like it's scripted. You went to a great college, St. Stephens, and then you went to another great college, which is IIM-K, and then you went to strategy consulting with Deloitte. After that, you moved on to ABG and then entrepreneurship. But it is the moment when we talk to you, we realize how difficult that grind would have been, right? And how dear it is to have your own enterprise, and how different it is to have your own company as to work in a company, and how technology has changed, how consumers have changed, and how people have changed over the years, and how they are going to change. And with the mom store, you have landed at a white space, so which as a consumer you felt that something was not right, and you went out in the market and made it right. So thank you for all those insights. And finally, we are at our last question, which is you have 2 minutes, Surbhi, for like to tell us what you have been up to, something interesting you have been up to in the last 3 4 months in the lockdown and during the pandemic, or has it only been the mom store which has occupied your head?
Uh, it has been, I mean, I would say that the last 9 months since March 2020 has been a reboot for me as a person, for us as a company, and for everything around me. Like, it's just a different life. I have, say, never been a period of time in my life where I have not traveled outside a particular area for 9 months. And when I say this, I haven't gone beyond 8 or 10 kilometers away from my own house in the last 9 months. And this is coming from a person, because even with the mom store, I was visiting all over the country, meeting vendors and all. Secondly, I have had to pivot my way of thinking. As an entrepreneur and a young manager, I am managing a young team straight out of college in their 20s. I was a very strict boss and I never believed in work from home. I was like, you are in office or you're on a leave. There is no such thing as work from home. Okay, I was like that tough. And when this whole situation happened, obviously I had no choice and I had to change my way of thinking itself. That okay, work can happen from home. Let's figure out a way to do it. And now, uh, you know, fast forward 9 months, work from home has become so comfortable that I actually don't plan to call some of my employees back at all because it's working smoothly. Our orders grew. It was a brand discovery moment for us when everybody had stopped taking orders during the lockdown. The mom store was taking orders with the promise that we will ship your orders the day the e-commerce shipping opens up for non-essentials, and that led to a 200% rise in the number of orders we were getting. And so we were grappling, and how will we fulfill them with the current inventory, with the supply chain being stuck in India, and with the limited number of staff. So we've ended up adding more employees in the, say, in the dispatch department. In addition to that, I would say when I started the business, a lot of the products, because we were wanted smaller quantities and we wanted custom made stuff, which is harder to do in India, we were importing most of our products. However, in the last 9 months, we have completely pivoted to a design center where we design and create each one of our products, and 99% of our products are made in India. This is also thanks to a political scenario which encourages that and discourages the imports. But again, this is also a big shift in the kind of business that we were doing. At a personal level, I took up other stuff. I started reading a lot. I started running. So I always had this wish of doing a 10K in Bangalore or anywhere else, and I started training for it. And now I'm easily able to run 10 kilometers, and I'm now eyeing the half marathon. So I'm like really waiting for things to go back to normal. So that's one thing that I picked up, and I'm really happy about it because I feel that physical exercise clears up your mind a lot and allows you to think rationally and clearly rather than just being engrossed in work the whole time. So these are all the things that have happened in the last few months, and it's been a complete change in our lives. So anyway, I guess change is always good.